them. This is the first thing that surprises you. The old self would have explained, would have softened the closing with words, would have offered an apologetic narrative to make the wall feel less like a wall. The new stillness inside you does not produce those words. It is not withholding them. It simply does not generate them anymore. The factory that manufactured emotional translations for other people's discomfort has gone quiet. What completed in you was not a decision. This is the part that is hardest to convey, and the part most often misunderstood by those who arrive at this threshold and try to describe it to someone who has not. A decision can be reversed. A decision can be argued with. What happened in you was structural. The configuration of your psyche that required you to be available, that organized your nervous system around the reception and management of other people's emotional weather, dissolved not through effort but through exhaustion of its own purpose. The compliance that lived inside you for decades had a function. It kept you small enough to be tolerated by people who could not tolerate a fuller version of you. It earned you a place in rooms where your full presence would have been experienced as too much. It was in its own way intelligent, a survival arrangement made early, refined over years, maintained because the cost of maintaining it seemed lower than the cost of being unprotected. And then one day the arithmetic changed. The cost of maintaining it became higher than the cost of letting it end, so it ended. You will notice in the first days after a strange absence of grief, you expected to mourn it. You expected the loss of your old availability to feel like a loss. Instead, there is something closer to the quiet that follows the end of a long noise you had stopped hearing. The room is not emptier. It is finally the size it actually was. The people around you do not have this quiet. For them, the noise has just begun. They are encountering, perhaps for the first time, the sensation of speaking to you and not receiving the immediate emotional accommodation they had built their relationship with you upon. Some of them will mistake this for anger and look for the offense they must have caused. Some will mistake it for depression and ask you with concern if you are all right. Some will mistake it for coldness and quietly begin to withdraw, testing whether their withdrawal will summon you back to them as it always did before. It will not. This is the consequence. The title names the thing everyone feels first before you have language for what has changed. The field around you has already reorganized. The ones who fed on your availability are the first to register its absence, and they register it not in their thoughts but in their bodies. A faint vertigo when they speak to you, a sense that something they had been standing on is no longer there. They do not yet know that it was you they were standing on. The mirror in the hallway of your home shows you a face that has not yet caught up to what has happened. You stand in front of it in the morning and the reflection looks the same eyes, the same mouth. But behind the eyes there is a quality of attention that did not used to be there, a steadiness that does not flicker toward the imagined needs of the next person you will encounter today. The mirror does not show this. The mirror only shows the surface. What changed is behind the surface in the place where your gaze begins. You pass through the doorway into the rest of the house and the day begins, and the day is the same day it has always been. And you are not the same person walking through it. You make coffee, you answer a message, you do the small things, and underneath each small thing, there is now a floor that did not used to be there. A floor of yourself holding you that was previously occupied by the apparatus of accommodation. The apparatus has been dismantled. The floor is what was beneath it the whole time. Somewhere in the late morning, someone will ask something of you in the tone that used to work. The tone designed perhaps unconsciously to activate your old reflex. You will hear it the way you might hear a language you used to speak fluently and have not spoken in a long time. You will understand every word. You will feel no pull. The request will land in front of you like an object placed on a table, and you will look at it and you will respond to it from the new floor, and your response will be brief and it will be true, and it will not contain the layer of preemptive emotional caretaking that used to wrap every sentence you spoke. The person will feel the missing layer. They will not know what is missing. They will know only that something they were counting on did not arrive. This is what they feel first. Not your strength, not your healing. The absence of the wrapping. The unwrapped sentence is what unsettles them, because the wrapping had become over years the thing they were actually receiving. The content of what you said had always been secondary. The wrapping was the meal, and now the meal is gone, and only the words remain. and the words are smaller than they expected, and the words do not feed them in the way they had grown used to being fed. You will see this in their face. You will see with a clarity that is itself new that what they had been receiving from you was never quite what you thought you were giving. You thought you were giving care. They were receiving regulation. You thought you were being kind. They were being held. The difference between those two things is the difference that has just opened. And there is no closing it again because the apparatus that produced the confusion has finished its work and gone. By afternoon, you understand something that the morning had only suggested. The untouchability is not a wall you have built. It is a floor that has finished settling. The distinction matters because a wall can be pushed against. A floor cannot. The people who come at you with the old tools are not finding resistance. They are finding ground that does not give. There is nothing to push against. There is only the simple fact that you are standing where you are standing, and their reaching does not move you toward them anymore. This is what disturbs them most. Resistance they could have read. Resistance would have meant you were still inside the field of their influence, still in negotiation, still capable of being pulled back into the old arrangement through the right combination of pressure and appeal. What they encounter instead is the absence of the field itself. The negotiation table is gone. They are standing in a room where the table used to be, holding the documents they had prepared, and there is no surface on which to set them down. One of them, the one who knew you longest, will try a different approach. They will become softer. They will speak to you about the past, about the closeness you once had, about the version of you they remember and miss. They will not say it as manipulation. They will mean it. This is what makes it hard. The grief in their voice will be real. The memory they invoke will be accurate, and still, the floor will not move. You will hear them with a tenderness that is itself new, a tenderness that does not require you to dissolve in order to express it. You will love them in that moment more clearly than you ever did when you were still available to them, and you will not return. The not returning is the thing they cannot metabolize. They had assumed, perhaps without knowing they assumed it, that love and availability were the same substance, that if you still loved them, you would still bend. The discovery that these are two different things, that love can remain while bending has ended, is for them a small catastrophe. It rearranges what they thought they knew about you. It rearranges by extension what they thought they knew about love itself. You watch this rearrangement happen behind their eyes and you do not interrupt it. The old reflex would have rushed in to soothe their disorientation, to reassure them that nothing had changed, to perform a small theater of continuity, so that they did not have to face what had actually happened. The reflex is gone. You let them sit inside the rearrangement. This is perhaps the most loving thing you have ever done for them, and it will not feel loving to them for a long time, possibly ever. They may experience it as your cruelty. You will not correct the misperception. The correction is no longer your responsibility. There is a quiet recognition that arrives here without announcement. What had organized your psyche for most of your life was not your love, but your fear of what would happen if your love were not delivered in the precise form others required. The form was the cage. The love was always free. When the cage dissolved, the love became visible for the first time as something that did not need to be packaged in order to exist. It simply existed. It existed whether or not it was received. It existed whether or not it was used. This is, I have observed in patients across many years, the inversion that marks the end of the compliance shadow. The moment when love stops being a transaction and becomes a fact. I once treated a woman in her late 40s who came to me after what she described as a year of inexplicable quiet. She brought me a dream. In the dream, she was walking through the long hallway of a house she had lived in as a child. The hallway was lined with doors, and behind each door she could hear the voices of people she had once cared for, calling to her by the name she had used when she was younger, the name she had answered to without hesitation for 40 years. In the dream, she walked the length of the hallway without stopping. The voices grew louder as she passed. She did not turn her head. At the end of the hallway there was a mirror, and in the mirror, she saw herself for the first time without the small forward lean of the body that had always preceded her into a room. She was standing upright. The voices behind her continued. She woke, she told me, not with sadness, but with an unfamiliar steadiness in her chest, as if something in the hallway of her interior life had finally been walked through to its end. The dream is not a metaphor for what happens. The dream is what happens. The hallway is real. The doors are real. The voices behind them are the voices of every relationship that was organized. Around your forward lean, around your readiness to turn your head at the sound of your old name. To walk the length of that hallway without stopping is not an act of cruelty. It is the completion of a long psychological labor that the hallway itself was waiting to receive. The mirror at the end shows you what was always true beneath the leaning posture, the upright body, the steady gaze, the self that did not need to be arranged for anyone's reception. The mirror in your own home, the one you stood in front of in the morning, is the same mirror. You will return to it again tonight. The face will be the same face. The quality of attention behind the eyes will be a little more settled than it was in the morning, because by evening the floor has been walked on for a full day and has held. Each step it holds is a small confirmation that what completed in you was not a mood, not a phase, not a reaction to a particular hurt. It was structural. The structure is the new fact of your life. The people around you will continue for a while to test the structure. This is not their cruelty either. It is the body's natural response to a vanished support. They will lean by reflex in the direction the support used to be, and each time they lean, they will encounter empty air, and slowly, over weeks, over months, their bodies will learn that the support is no longer there, and they will begin to stand on their own legs in the small ways they had outsourced to you. Some of them will be grateful eventually for the standing, some of them will not. Both responses are in the end none of your concern. What is your concern is the floor. The floor is yours now, and the maintenance of it is the only labor that remains, not the maintenance of others. Not the maintenance of their comfort with the new arrangement. The maintenance of the floor, the daily standing on it. The daily refusal to step back into the dismantled apparatus. The daily quiet recognition that the apparatus is gone and is not coming back. This is the work. It is not heavy work. It is in fact lighter than anything you have done in your adult life. But it is constant in the way that breathing is constant. It is no longer optional. The hallway of the dream and the hallway of your home are the same hallway. You walked it. You did not turn your head. The voices behind the doors will continue to call for some time, and then they will stop, and then they will be replaced by other voices. And those voices will speak to the person you are now rather than to the name you used to answer to. Some of those new voices will be voices you have not heard in this life. Some of them will be your own. The day ends. You sit in the kitchen with the last of the light coming through the window. You are not waiting for anything. You are not preparing yourself for tomorrow's emotional weather. You are sitting in a kitchen at the end of a day, and the kitchen is the size it actually is, and the chair is holding the weight it was made to hold, and the body in the chair is at rest in a way it has not been at rest in decades. The mirror in the hallway shows nothing because no one is standing in front of it. The hallway is empty. The hallway has been walked. What they felt first before you had words for it was the end of an arrangement they did not know they were inside of. What you feel last at the end of this day is the simple settled fact of your own continuing presence in your own life, unaccompanied by the apparatus that used to translate that presence into something more palatable for others. The translation has stopped. The original remains, the compliance has ended, it will not resume.